What's up, guys? Good morning. And today we're going to Skagway for a day excursion.
Skagway!
Alaska. Wala pa rin tatalo sa Alaska.
Pati bas lang.
And we'll tour you around right after the intro. Okay, we are all in the bus for our Skagway trip today in Alaska. So we will show you the whole tour as we are just staying here for 4 hours.
Not 4 hours. I mean, doctor in the morning.
Yeah, so our ship will leave at exactly 4:30 and time check is 12:30. So let's do this, guys. Skagway, Alaska. 4th day of our trip. What's up? Special guest Bea and Anika.
See a whole bunch of old stuff painted on the sides of the rocks. So every time a new cruise ship comes for a different season, the tradition is to paint the ship's name, the year, and the name of the ship captain on the rock. And supposedly the higher up on a rock a captain's name is, the more liked he is by his crew. So typically we could only see your guys' ship's name during low tide. But you'll notice this is actually a really old tradition in Skagway, dating back more than 100 years. It's very common to paint things on the side as a rock way back in the day. And in fact, when we drive through downtown Skagway, you're going to see actually a clock painted on the side of the mountain. Now this was actually an old advertisement for a jewelry store in town that was painted in 1898. There used to be a whole bunch of them up there, but the jewelry store is the only store that is still in business from those days, and so it's the only advertisement that is still maintained. I'll point that out to you once we get a little bit closer to it, so you don't forget.
Downtown Skagway, I think, yeah.
Those poor fellows are waiting for the ship shuttle to go back to your boat. On the left we have the Skagway Fish Company. It's got some really good crab and egg omelets. Kind of a delicacy up here. We are currently on the street known as Congress Way. The whole of Skagway is not very big. It's only 4 blocks wide by 22 blocks long. So sometimes it's easy to miss things that are going on in town. We're going to go on a bit of the scenic route because I want you to be able to see the... We're crossing over a couple of railroad tracks here that are in the middle of the road. These are all railroad tracks that are connected to the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. These are narrow gauge tracks, meaning that they're only 3 feet in diameter instead of the standard 4 feet 8 inches across. The reason that it's 4 feet 8 inches traditionally is because that is the width of 2 horse butts. On our right hand side we're passing by a rotary snow piercer built in 1898. It's used to cut drifts of snow up to 12 feet high that were on the railroad tracks. It was used as recently as 2001, but nowadays we don't use it too often because it does take 3 engines to push it, so it's very expensive. Coming up on our left, we're passing the Red Onion Saloon and Brothel. Now I know we have a couple of kids on board, so if you don't know what a brothel is, it's a place where they sell soup. Really hot soup upstairs. Also on our left, we're going by the AB building. So this was originally a fraternity building that was built in 1899 and has 2,000 pieces of driftwood on front of it. On our left as well is the Golden North Hotel, which is currently a 3-story building, but only those top 2 floors are original. That bottom floor was added in 1906 when a carpenter from Minnesota was contracted to lift up that building and put them on as an additional floor. Now if you look to your left, and your right, and your left, and your right, you will see a jewelry store. We only have 27 of them here in Skagway. Also on our right is the Skagway Hardware Company. This is kind of our local equivalent of Walmart, and their motto is, if we don't have it, you don't need it. If you do want to go to a Walmart, you're going to have to travel about 2.5 hours north to Whitehorse, which is the capital city of the Yukon Territory in Canada. So take a look out your right-hand side as we pass over 5th Avenue, and look at that clock painted on the mountain. That is that advertisement for Kermessy's Curios, which is this jewelry store on our right-hand side that I was telling you about earlier. And that clock is actually 75 feet high from top to bottom, and although it is painted, it is still right twice a day. On our right-hand side, this is the Days of 98 building. You'll be coming here later today to watch your show. And on your left, you can see our one and only bank in town. So I'd like to welcome you to Skagway's Financial District. And we are now leaving Skagway's Financial District. So that bank was actually the site of one of my most favorite Skagway stories. Back in 1902, a man decided he wanted to walk in the bank and rob it. He figured it would be a good idea since all of these prospectors were passing through with all of their gold nuggets and flakes and such, and so he walked in with a pistol and a stick of dynamite and demanded all the gold that he could carry. And he must have gotten a little bit excited while he was waving around that pistol and stick of dynamite, because he ended up shooting off that pistol, which then ignited the stick of dynamite, and that stick of dynamite ended up exploding right in his hands. Blew himself right up, and legend has it that the only thing of him that was found was his head. So coming up here in just a second, we're going to be entering the White Pass and Yukon Route railroad yard. I forgot every single word I've ever learned for just a minute there. It's alright. And we're going to be entering the Gold Rush Cemetery. Now the Gold Rush Cemetery is a really interesting place. You can find all sorts of very, very interesting characters there. And the majority of folks that you will see buried in the Gold Rush Cemetery died in 1898. So there are a couple of reasons why that is. The main reason is because 1898 was Skagway's absolute peak year of when the population was the highest. In 1898, the population was estimated to be about 20,000 people living in Skagway. And then on top of that, there was a cerebrospinal meningitis outbreak that same year, and so a lot of folks that you'll see in the cemetery today ended up passing away from that. Right in front of the cemetery, you're going to see a little white sign pretty close to where we park, and that has a couple of stories listed of a few of the people that are buried there, including that man I just told you about who robbed that bank. Of course,
Oh no, that's a mess.
Okay guys, off the bus to see our first tour destination for today, and it's Skagway Cemetery. So I don't know about this tour, but Skagway is a pretty little town, and this is our first line of order. We are going to the Gold Rush Cemetery. And some remarkable people who are buried here. Skagway Gold Rush Cemetery, guys. Let's go. a beautiful morning, guys. Let's do this. Okay, we're doing a cemetery forest tour. Beautiful Skagway, guys.
This guy died after World War II. It's a flying caterpillar.
What is it?
It's a flying caterpillar.
Oh my, oh yeah. Flying
Look, mommy,
caterpillar.
mama. It's a flying caterpillar. Where'd it go? ASMR.
Yes,
Where'd it go? It went on top of you.
Okay, Bea, you continue the vlog. Just
Bea,
explain
come on,
to
let's
them
go.
where we're doing.
Okay, so we're walking through a cemetery and we're going to look for ghosts. Watch out. Do you see any shadows?
Okay, take a video of all of them and then explain where we're going.
This is called Gold Mine Cemetery because it's filled with people who stole gold and took it with them to the grave forever. I don't know. Oh no, it's off. What happened?
Okay.
The guy we let go in the guy tie. Ali!
Don't pick it up. Don't pick it up.
What?
You got the Reeds Falls.
What is that? Whose cemetery is that?
Tara. Tara na yun.
Nandun pa sila eh.
Tara na.
He was born in 1860 to a very wealthy Southern family. They were able to give him a pretty good education and a good life. And after the American Civil War, they ended up losing most of their fortune. So Soapy decided to use all of that talent and smarts and education that he had to make the world a better place by becoming a con man. And so he became a well-known criminal all through the United States. He did lots of different cons, and one of those main cons that he did gave him a nickname, which he ended up carrying for the rest of his life. You see, what he would do is he would actually buy bars of soap, and then he would try to resell them for about 25 cents a bar. Now this soap was supposed to be miracle soap. If you were missing a little bit of hair on your head, rub the soap on it, you'll have a full head of hair in the next month. If you had some wrinkles, rub the soap on your face, you'll be as smooth as a baby within a week. If you had a hangnail, rub it on it, you'd be good by morning. If you were burnt by some soup at the brothels, rub the soap on the affected area, and you'd be good to go within a couple of months. It was perfect for everything. But of course, people were a little bit skeptical about this. They were especially skeptical because at the time, you could buy 2 bars of soap for about a nickel, so this is pretty expensive. So, Jefferson Randolph Smith wasn't getting a lot of people buying his soap, and so he decided to up the ante and make it a little bit more interesting. So what he decided to do is, in the paper wrapping of each and every bar of soap, he would place a dollar bill. And these dollar bills would range in size from $1 all the way up to $100. And then he would stand up on a corner of a street and yell kind of like I am right now, and he would say, come on, buy my bars of soap and see how lucky you are. And people were again pretty skeptical, especially because at this point he wasn't charging 25 cents per bar, he was charging $5 per bar. Now what you have to remember is that $1 back in those times was worth about $80 in today's money, so it was quite a hefty sum. So a whole crowd would be gathered waiting to see who would buy the first bar of soap and if they'd make any money, but everybody would be a little bit shy. And so Soapy would end up picking somebody from the front of the crowd and say, you sir with the black beard, come on up here and buy my bar of soap. And the guy would not want to do it, he'd kind of try to push his way back into the crowd, and the crowd would push him forward, and eventually Soapy would pretty much reach into that man's pockets and pull out his $5 and say, all right, go ahead, pick a bar, any bar. And the guy would kind of be not sure of what to do, but everybody would be cheering him on, so he'd pick a bar, he would dramatically unwrap it in front of the entire crowd, and lo and behold, a $10 bill would be inside. Now at this point, people were still pretty skeptical, and so Jefferson Randolph Smith was like, no, don't worry, I'll prove to you guys that it's real, for real. You, sir, with the white beard, come up here, buy a bar of soap, pick any bar you want.
And he wouldn't want to do it either. He'd kind of be like, no, pick somebody else, but everybody would be like, no, go ahead. So this man would end up picking a bar of soap, unwrapping it, and finding a $100 bill inside. And at this point, the town went nuts. Everybody was fighting over bars of soap. Everybody was trying to buy one bar over the other. And between all that commotion, Soapy would end up selling every single one of his bars of soap, packing up his sedan, and making his way into the alley behind wherever he set up. Now, by the time everybody finished unwrapping their bars of soap, they would find that there was absolutely nothing in those bars, not one of them. And the man with the black beard and the man with the white beard had also mysteriously disappeared. You see, they of course were friends of Soapy's and were in with him on this con, and they had of course chosen the only 2 bars in the entire lot that had any money. So because of this scam, Jefferson Randolph Smith gained the nickname of Soapy. And he did this all around the United States and even set up a pretty impressive crime empire in Denver, Colorado, until eventually he was kicked out and had a bit of a midlife crisis. You see, he was about 37 at this time, so that meant in 1898 that he was very old, and he wasn't sure what he was going to do. Until he heard that gold had been found up north in the Klondike, and that there was a ship going to a place called Skagway, Alaska. Now, Soapy thought about this, and he figured that it would be an excellent way to make a lot of money from a bunch of suckers that were trying to find gold. So he booked a one-way ticket up to Skagway and made his way all the way up to the beautiful city that we are now in July of 1897. Now, by the following year, July of 1898, he pretty much had total control over the entire town. Everybody was on his payroll, and he could do pretty much whatever he wanted. He also had a very large amount of goons and people that were helping him perform his scams. So he was very happy, living his best life, but of course, it was very hard for people in the town of Skagway. In fact, one man said that it was not uncommon for him to see people get robbed or mugged about 3 times a day. So you just see a random person getting mugged 3 different times in the same day, and that was just how life was. As you can imagine, that was pretty bad for business. And so a bunch of people in town started to get kind of fed up at Soapy, and about 101 men ended up banding together to try to start this vigilante group against Soapy Smith and his con men. And they called themselves the 101 Committee. Part of this committee was a man named Frank Reed, who was a 56-year-old man. He was a guy from Canada, and he was very, very fed up with Soapy. But of course, there wasn't a lot that they could do. He had total control over the entire town, and pretty much anytime anything happened, the sheriff would shrug his shoulders and then go off and do his thing. Unfortunately for Soapy, though, on July 7th, 1898, he robbed the wrong guy. It was a miner named J.D. Stewart, and he came into town with a pretty good poke of gold, about worth just under $3,000, which was quite a lot of money in that day. Soapy ended up robbing him, along with his con men, of course, and this man happened to complain to Frank Reed and some other members of the 101 Committee. After he complained, the 101 Committee decided that they had had enough and it was time to take their stand against Soapy. So they wrote him a letter and told him and his goons to meet them on the dock on July 8, 1898. So we just barely passed the 125th anniversary of this particular day. Fun fact. Anyways, so they arrived on the dock on July 8, 1898, and Soapy and his men were there, and he saw Frank Reed and everybody lined up. And Soapy figured that he would just kind of talk them down a little bit, figure out what they were doing, and get them to calm down. Now, Soapy, of course, thought he had control over the entire town, so at one point, when he and Frank started to get into a heated argument, he lifted up the butt of his rifle to hit Frank Reed, because of course he was Soapy Smith, he could do whatever he wanted. Now Frank Reed did not like that, and he in response drew his own gun and aimed it at Soapy. Soapy yelled at Frank, "By God, man, don't shoot!" And then Frank let out a shot. It was absolutely deafening. It was a click, because his gun had misfired. So at this point, Soapy was really mad, and he decided that he was going to do more than just hit Frank with his gun. He was going to full-on shoot him, and so he drew his gun and aimed it at Frank. Frank pushed Soapy's gun down and aimed his own and fired, and both men ended up firing shots at the same time and fell down to the dock. Soapy Smith had been killed instantly, shot directly through the heart by Frank Reed. Frank Reed, on the other hand, was not so lucky. When he pushed down Soapy's gun, it ended right on his pelvis, and he shot his stick and berries right off. That poor man lived in agony for 12 entire days before finally succumbing to these wounds on July 20th, 1898. Both men ended up being buried right here in the Gold Rush Cemetery, and I'll want you all to take a look around and tell me which grave you think is more popular. Jefferson Randolph Smith, buried right behind me. He has a tree going over his grave. Frank Reed, you'll see him over there. He has a great big monument. Every year on July 8th, the people of Skagway perform what they call Soapy's Wake, where they go to Soapy's grave, chant his name, and then pee on it. So nobody touched the grave today. Anyways, y'all are welcome to you're free to roam around and explore as you would like, check out the graves, and we'll be meeting again back on the bus, ready to go at 1:30, which is in about 20 minutes. So y'all have 20 minutes to roam around.
Okay, so as you hear the story of...
If anybody wants to go to the falls, go to your left and just keep walking. It's like 5 minutes. It's a little bit steep, but it is well worth it. It's beautiful.
Alright, so after that very good story about the history of Skagway, we are now going to check out Soapy Jefferson Smith's tomb.
Siya ba yun?
Yeah.
Yung hingin yan?
Yep. So they celebrate every year his death anniversary by peeing on his grave. And then we check out the other guy that is in their story too. Oh, look at that train. Beautiful train. Nice. This grave is for Frank's Reed right there.
Somebody made a seat for themselves. Yeah.
There's a statue in here. So we are heading to the falls. See the waterfalls. Okay, after like a 5-minute hike, we have reached the falls here inside the Skagway Cemetery. And yeah, look at that falls. Okay, beautiful falls. Okay, this is a beautiful falls here in Alaska. This is like a normal falls for the people who live here, but for tourists, this is a beauty, guys. Okay, you want time to sing the Russian anthem? Salute, salute. Beautiful, guys. Dude, this is just a normal falls here, But for us tourists, this is like, wow, man. If this would have been in some kind of state in the US, this will be filled with tourists, guys. It's only in Alaska, that's why it's hard to go. Okay, going back to the bus, guys. Let's go, guys. Look at this sweet car adventures. Heading back to the bus to go to our next tourist destination here at Skagway. And what's up? Okay, getting back in the bus, guys. Back in the bus. Let's go. Alright, we're checking out this scenic place here in Alaska. This is the White Horse, right?
No.
Oh no? Beautiful. That's it. Side of the road. Stop by for 5 minutes to see. Just look at this, guys. So much cool with our bus right there. Just trying to enjoy the nature, guys, here in Skagway, Alaska. And there's nothing much to see here, just like you're in Utah, but yeah, for sure, man, it's part of the trip. We paid for it, and yeah, man. Oh, one thing, if you're going here in Alaska and just like me, make sure you have lots of memories in all of your items or your electronics, like phones and GoPro, drones, everything. Look at this, beautiful, beautiful. Alright, guys, we'll be back to you later.
Cold drink, soda, and water. We have a restroom as well if you need one. And then when you're all settled, you can head into the theater and find your seats. We just can't wait to entertain you this afternoon. Follow me.
Thank you. I'll be back here to pick up anybody
Alright,
who wants to come
somebody
with
just
me
hopped in the bus from the show, and they're trying to guide us towards the show. So we are going to watch the show this afternoon. Okay, we are going off the bus now and to watch this show that called Days of 98 show. This is a show about Soapy Smith. Let's go.
That's a whole lot of grabbing, Alice.
Oh, look at those guys there. Pretty cool. Home of the Days of 98. Alright, see you later. Here's what the theater looks like. Soapy Smooth right there. Excuse me.
Small popcorn and Skittles and $7.
We are going inside the theater. There's a goodies.
Just sit back, relax, and hopefully enjoy.
There are hardships that nobody reckons. There are valleys unpeopled and still. There's a land, oh, it beckons, and I want to go back. And I will. They're making my money diminish. I'm sick of the taste of champagne. Thank God when I'm skinned to a finish, I'll pipe to the Yukon again. I'll fight. And you bet it's no sham fight. It's hell, but I've been there before. And it's better than this by a damn sight. So meet for the Yukon once more. There's gold, and it's haunting and haunting. It's luring me on as of old. Yet it isn't the gold that I'm wanting, so much as just finding the gold. It's the great big broad land way up yonder. It's the forest where silence has lease. It's the beauty that thrills me with wonder. It's the stillness that fills me with peace.
Snap out of it, Alice. Get out of here. Poor Alice. Now she's just another foolish and lonely prospector on their way up to Dawson City, the Paris of the North, up to the glittering gold fields of the Klondike. You would not believe the number of deluded dreamers I have seen pass through this town in the last few months. Thousands of men and women just like Alice have come storming through Skagway with the idea of getting rich quick. Of course, the weak in body, the weak in spirit, and naturally the stupid ones, well, they die before they ever reach the gold fields. They freeze, they starve, or they get themselves shot. Frankly, the greatest kindness I can show such people is to force them to get out of Skagway and take the first ship south. And there are those in this town that have the gall to say that I am just a crook. Frank Reed and his boys. They're down at Sylvester Hall right now, trying to stir up enough support to take this town away from me. It's all got Belle pretty upset. Frank Reed and his committee of 101. You know, there's one thing everyone has in common here in Skagway. Greed. Greed's what brought them here. Greed's what keeps them here. And greed eventually sends them home broke. Fortunately, there are any number of services that my associates and I provide whereby a man may be hastily relieved of the terrible burden of all his loot. Like reliable packers, where a man can have his gear reliably packed up and over the White Pass for him, then can reliably count on its disappearance. But mostly there's drinking, gambling, poker, blackjack, faro, Scotch apple, pineapple, rag. Are absolutely true. Well, mostly true. But none of the names have been changed because none of them were innocent. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Wait! Hold on a second, wait! Stop! I forgot to do something. There's one more item on the agenda before we start the show. I need to check backstage and make sure all of our tech people have done their job.
problems of our country. The one question, the supreme question, which stands before us today, friends, is vital to the welfare of the Republic. Friends, the all-important question which I propound to you, and for which I earnestly seek the answer, is this. How are you fixed for soap? Well, I hear no response. I fear I embarrass you. Oh, in all honesty, sir, it does look as if you could use a little soap. Your silence distresses me. But seriously, though my message is that of soap, it is also a message of hope. And for today, to meet that great need, which is so apparent to you, my friend, I have a new soap. I have a wonder soap. Here is the finest cleansing agent ever brought forth by man's scientific ingenuity. The fruit of many weary months of research and experiment in my own laboratory. Use my soap upon your skin, and it will glow like the moon. Your face will shine with the radiance of 1,000 candles. Is that bald spot growing, sir? Use my soap, and the patriarchal locks once more will adorn your brow. Your hair turning gray? Use my soap, and to those silver threads will return the pristine glory of youth. Does your conscience keep you tossing and sleepless in the silent watches of the night? Use my soap and wash those sins away. Say hallelujah! Hallelujah! Now, perhaps this glorious opportunity to purify body and soul should be enough. Today, I'm offering you far more than that. On this day of all days, as an introduction only, I am giving, that's right, friends, giving enormous cash prizes to those upon whose shoulders the goddess of luck has chosen to perch. Cleanliness is next to godliness, but the feel of a good crisp greenback in one's pocket is paradise itself. Now, I'm going to sell you these bars of soap today for 25 cents each. If you wish to purchase my soap alone, and there being any such among you, I will accept your quarter, and you will find it the best two-bit investment you ever made. But if you've got some sporting blood, and you want to win one of these little green pieces of paper with the big numbers on them, ranging up to $100, I'll sell you a bar of soap from these I have already wrapped for the ridiculous price of $5, and you will have the privilege of choosing your own package. Now, if you have been watching me as closely as I hope you have, you should find it very simple to choose a package wrapped in real money. And the first person up has the best chance of winning. Now, who's going to be first? Who's going to take a chance on winning $100, $50, or even such small change as a $20 bill, all for $5? Think of it, friends. You land that $100 bill and you make a 2,000% profit on your investment. What? No answer for the great unwashed? You amaze me. I am astounded. But I understand. You want proof. Proof that I'm willing to give you something for nothing in order to prove the miraculous qualities of my soap. Very well. So be it. The customer is always right, and I ain't pleased. So listen carefully. If there's anyone sitting here right now that can just show me a $10 bill, I'll give you a 10 back. Free? Oh, very good. There is your 10, and here is mine. Now go ahead, take your dime. You win, I lose, and I ask for no sympathy. I always pay my debts, and I keep my word. I said a 10 for a peek at a 10, and I gave it to you, didn't I? I certainly did. Now remember, friends, the first person up has the best chance of winning that $100 bill. Now who's gonna be first? Looks like the show's about to start. You're gonna love this.
Afternoon, Jeff.
And that's my Belle, the lady of the house. Belle and one of her associates, Alice, the delicacies of the house.
Hi there, handsome. Nice to see you again. Don't you just love repeat customers, Belle?
I love any customer who still has a little gold left in their poke, Alice. Now come on, it's showtime.
Okay, now I'm ready to go. This one's for you, Poopsie. I've been working really hard on this next number just for you, Poopsie Woopsie. Snooky Wookie.
Cute and woof. And now, folks, the bedazzling Miss Belle Davenport and Squirrel Tooth Alice.
A smart and stylish girl, you see, Belle of good
I'll have a cry and fade away with tearful cry. Oh, oopsie! When that good young man in haste will support me round the waist, I don't come to a thus embraced till on my lips he steals a taste. Ta-ra-ra-boom-dee-ay, 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 ta-ra-ra-boom-dee-ay. We're two young maids of innocence, as long as you buy our pretense. We're one eternal big expense. You pay for what you get, my friends. Ere our verses we conclude, we'd like it known and understood. Though free as air, we're never rude. Though not too bad, we're always good.
Oh, you know the words by now. Sing along with us.
Ta-ra-ra-boom-dee-ay, 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 ta-ra-ra-boom-dee-ay.
Now, where was I? Ah, yes, the soap scheme. Well, the crowd stood silent, still wary of a sure thing, waiting for more proof. Until one brave soul like you, my friend, one courageous individual, was willing to give it a go. Making their way through the crowd up to the Tri-Fan Keister, they paid me their $5, chose a bar of soap, and, unwrapping it, produced, to the astonishment of the crowd, a $20 bill. Suddenly, another man struggled forward doing the same thing, but this time unwrapping a 50. But then, before anyone at all had time to think, a third man leapt up, reached into that case, and this time pulled out a brand new crisp $100 bill, a C note. By now, the crowd was in a frenzy, fighting their way to the front, crawling over each other, trying to buy a bar of soap. Of course, by the time the chaos died down, and the crowd realized that the most anyone had won was $1, me and my 3 associates, oh, you remember them, the 3 lucky winners? Well, the 4 of us had vanished down a nearby alleyway, leaving the crowd behind in a dazed and befuddled stupor. Slippery Soapy Smith. Soapy, the name stuck. That was a long time ago, back in Denver, back when I was just a common con man. Long before I came up here, Now, when a man has lost most of his money, someone will suggest to him that he go over to Dominion Telegraph and wire home for some more. Dominion Telegraph Company, Skagway's altar of hope, where a man can send a message anywhere in the world for only $5. And if that gentleman sticks around long enough, he can get an answer to his message for another $5. You know, they learned something in Skagway. They learned that you can't trust anyone or anything. Maybe they've become suspicious of that telegraph company. Suspicious enough to follow that grand and glorious cable out the back of the office, down over the bank, and into the Lynn Canal where it ends just past the dock. Now, when a man has really lost everything, and the money he's sent for doesn't arrive, then inevitably someone else will say to him, son, now you go on over to 317 Holly Street to Jeff Smith's parlor, and you ask for Jefferson Smith himself. You tell him what happened to you, and you tell him you want to go home. And I personally guarantee he'll help you out. So it happens. When that gentleman shows up here, I take a portion of his lost and squandered money out of my safe, and I give it back to him in the form of a ticket south. Now, he's learned a very valuable lesson because he'll probably never gamble again, and he'll have me to thank for that. So I'll save him a lot of money. But more importantly, when he gets on that ship and he leaves Skagway heading south, he leaves our town with 2 things. He leaves Skagway with his life, for heaven's sake. And he leaves Skagway with a soft spot in his heart for Jefferson Smith. Oh, hey, Belle, sweetheart. You are looking mighty fine in that new dress of yours.
Oh, are you trying to sweet talk me with that sugary tongue of yours?
Well, maybe.
Oh, well, it's not going to work. lecture hall. Please don't do anything foolish. Alice! Come on downstairs and get back to work. There are plenty of chicacos in here who haven't seen a gal in months.
They say I'm crazy, got no sense, but I don't care. How do you like this, boys? They may or may not mean offense, but I don't care. Here's a move I've been working on. You see, I'm sort of independent. I'm my own superintendent. My star is on the ascendant. Oops. And that's why I don't care. Any takers?
Anyone?
No. Oh well. 2, 3, 4. I don't care. I don't care what they may think of me. I'm happy, go lucky, and say that I'm lucky, so jolly and carefree. I don't care if I do get the mean and stony stare. It's your last chance, boys. If I'm never successful, it won't be distressful, 'cause I don't care.
You know, that Alice, she just never gives up, does she?
Oh, come on, Jeff. I saw plenty of folks in here admiring her tenacity.
You could say that again. Here's to Alice.
Haven't you had enough? This is a nice gift, Jeff.
All right. All right. Then why don't you go ahead and take this bottle and hide it someplace I'll never find it.
I'll make sure you can't.
Now she's just afraid I'll go down to that meeting and do something about that mob of morons. I mean, who does Frank Reed think he is? Trying to undermine the order I've established here. I have done more for Skagway. You know what I do for Skagway? Let me give you a good example. Now, this incident started on the night of January 31st when a young local by the name of Andy McGrath slapped down a bill in payment for a drink. And John Fay, the bartender and bar owner, told him he could drink his change. Now, it's a common enough practice here in Skagway with the stampeders, but it's generally not used on townsfolk because it's bad for business. Well, McGrath demanded his change back, and Fay wouldn't give it to him. McGrath threatened to go out in the street and find the marshal. Fay told him that if he did that, he would shoot them both when they came back through the door. Then Fay came around from behind the bar, picked McGrath up by the scruff of the neck, and threw him out of the saloon. Well, McGrath got real angry, and then did just what he said he would. He went and found Deputy Marshal Rowan. The two men talked about it for a minute. Rowan agreed that McGrath deserved his change, and so the two men went running back over to the saloon, and as they came busting through those swinging doors, that slimy weasel of a bartender shot both of them. He shot them. Well, in no time, a lynch mob had formed, started combing the streets for Fay. McGrath was dead, and Rowan, poor Rowan, he lay up in Doc Moore's office, mortally wounded, next to his wife, who had just given birth to Skagway's very first child. When that man died, when that new young father died, the thirst for blood in that mob hit a peak. They wanted to hang John Fay right then and there and ask what happened second. Mob rule. Well, there's not going to be any mob rule in Skagway, not while I'm around. I can still see that mob of blood-sucking leeches standing outside of Clancy's saloon right now, howling for blood. And because I had John Fay in my protective custody, they wanted me almost as bad. They had brought 2 nooses. I had to move fast just to save my own neck. So I grabbed my hat off my head, I shoved it under Faye's face, and I said, "Listen here, you fat slime. You put every penny you've got into this hat right now, or you're a dead man." Then, hat in hand, I stepped out onto that boardwalk and I faced that mob alone. I've got 50 armed men inside here ready to pick off the first one of you murderers that makes a move for that door. If you think another killing is going to solve the problems that wife and child are going to have over the next few months, you're wrong. While you idiots have been out here collecting nooses, the decent folk of Skagway have been inside collecting money for that widow and her baby. You? Oh yeah, you. You've been the loudest-mouthed one of this bunch. Why don't you do something meaningful for that widow and her fatherless child and put some money in the hat? Even a dime will do. You still have that dime, right? Oh my! Well, I guess we'll just have to let the poor starving children of Skagway starve. I passed my hat all around that lynch mob, and the thirst for blood went right out of them. They got very generous, as a matter of fact, just like the moneybags is here. I collected over $400 for Roman's widow right then and there. John Fay managed to escape certain death, and even I came out ahead. The newspaper said that I was an outspoken enemy of mob rule and a friend of destitute widows. Order. Now that's the kind of thing I do for Skagway.
Well, so the folks around here got mighty riled up about your generosity, not to mention all your other charitable deeds. I found these posted all over Skagway. The warning to all con men, bunco artists, and all other objectionable characters to leave Skagway and remain away. It's signed the Committee of 101, but it seems to me like a love letter from Frank Reed.
The Committee of 101? 101? What? Is that supposed to scare me? I have over 300 men in this town. I'll have my own signs posted. How does this sound? The business interests of Skagway propose to put a stop to the lawless acts of many newcomers. We hereby summon all good citizens to a meeting at which these matters will be discussed. The meeting will be held at Sylvester Hall at 8 p.m. sharp. Let this be a warning to those chichacos who are disgracing our city.
When we got down to Sylvester Hall that night, it was packed.
Fellow citizens, this Committee of 101 would tear down that which we have worked so diligently to establish. And now, these chichacos, these newcomers, who think they have a place here, they are trying to force mob rule on our town. But I am willing to stand arm in arm with all of you brave men and women against this Committee of 101, even at the risk of our own lives. That entire room full of people jumped to their feet and they cheered me. They stood up and cheered. That's when I realized I hold this town in the palm of my hand, and I can do with it whatever I want. And nobody, leastwise not some vigilance committee, can stop me. I boss this town! When the Committee of 101 saw my support, they folded like a busted hand.
Hey, Soapy, you gotta hear this. Okay. I went out to get ready for the parade, and I was standing right in front of the packed train saloon when I heard the governor talking about you. Me? Skagway! It's fine, upstanding citizens like your own Jefferson Smith who are gonna lead this town and this entire district into statehood. Yay! Jefferson Smith came into town to carry out his dream. He bright, he con, he stolen, now he is the king. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. On Independence Day we saw Jeff leading the parade. Dream fulfilled, the town was his grand marshal, he was made. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Hey Dave, you can be handy with me anytime.
What's going on in here?
Did you hear, Belle? Soapy's been named Grand Marshal of the 4th of July Parade.
Well then, 8 toasts to Mr. Jefferson Randolph Smith.
gone up there, Dad. You should have gone up.
The full show, I think it's an hour show, so it was cool and great. So we are heading out and check out. I think we're going back to the ship after this. So what can you say about the show?
I accidentally fell asleep.
What?
I accidentally fell asleep a little bit. But it's
That's a good one.
Because I woke up from the cymbals that came in.
Oh, so you just woke up when they start clapping? Okay.
But it's okay.
Good job. So you woke up when they start clapping, huh? You thought you were the star?
What? No.
It was fun? Okay. Pretty cool. Klondike trip. The Klondike trip. Go guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stipping. Not stipping.
I don't like to tip.
Okay, we're going in the bus again. Okay, this is the last part of the trip before we go back into our ship. And this is an overlook. You can see the whole of Skagway. And here we go. We can see all of it from up here. All right. From Skagway, 9 blocks. This is just 9 blocks.
Ali's there. Ali.
I lived in Nebraska, so. Oh, where in Nebraska? Omaha. That's where I was.
I did live in Lincoln for a whole year.
Very familiar with Lincoln. Yep. My parents, we had a car accident outside of Lincoln when I was a kid, and I drove the car.
Oh, wow.
And the people in Lincoln were very kind. Ali.
Nice.
I think our bus is going to leave without. Get one of them. I got yours. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll have you.
Yeah.
Cheers, Dave.
Picture mom and daddy.
Yeah. Tara. Let's go. So that's it guys, our day at Skagway is already done and we have like one more stop and it's Vancouver, BC, and thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share and subscribe.